Hey everybody, it's Mystic Rain here. Welcome back to my channel, and this video is going to give you an unboxing, or more so of a review, of the Tantric Dikini Oracle. I'm so excited about this deck. I saw this deck from a palmist that gave me a palm reading, and he used it on me, and I loved it, and I thought I'm never going to find that deck. Didn't even ask him for what the name of the deck was because I thought I was never going to find it. And was later shopping and found it, and it was a complete surprise, but I'm so happy I did, and I wanted to talk about it. So this deck is a deck that they named it an Oracle, but it does have Root and Tarot, and with the traditional sort of Rider-Waite Tarot deck. So even though it's named the Oracle, it's named the Oracle simply because it doesn't follow to the T the Tarot system, but it does take a likeness from it, and it respects it. And so the general system the system of this deck was inspired by the tarot deck. So even though it's called an Oracle, you can use it as a tarot. The thing is, it does have less than 78 cards. So instead of 78 cards in a tarot deck, it only gives you 65, but you can use it as a tarot deck. Now, this is the actual guidebook. So it's a proper book. The guidebook is an actual book all about the cards itself, and then it also gives you history of sort of the Dikinis and ancient practices, so you're kind of up to date on what the cards are actually symbols of. And I started studying the system because I was really, really drawn to it. You can see because, where I've read, I do highlight things that resonate, things that I want to come back to, things that I remember. And so I actually have been studying it quite a bit. And then when you get to the back is then, you'll have your card. So this card is number 24, the Solar Return. All the pictures are in black and white, by the way, but Solar Return, and then it'll be the card's description. And the description isn't just, this is what the card means, blah, blah, blah. It actually goes into bits of numerology, bits of symbolism, why things have been represented the way they have been represented, and what does that mean for you. So it's, a lot of times when you get tarot cards, you get the little white book that comes in it, and then you may read the description for the tower. It'll be like 2 or 3 lines of what the tower is, but it won't tell you how that conclusion was reached. One thing I like about this book is that it tells you how the conclusion was reached, and if you're someone that sort of likes learning about different divination systems, I think this is great. It's a great read. I was reading it on Sunday with my tea and my glasses, and with my pastel purple highlighter, and was going to town. And this is definitely something that you would study. But these are cards that I'm so drawn to that I would like to use them sort of in regular practice. But in order to use them, I have to know what they all mean. And so I've been studying the book. But this is the proper book. And this is actually largely the reason as to why I brought it. Because I loved the fact that the guidebook itself, the little white book, was a book. So, here are the cards. The cards come like this. I'll just take them out. Now, they are out of order because, again, I have been working with these lately. I have been studying with them. Get them out of the box. Now, the cool thing about this is its own system. And as a system, this system doesn't work with reversals. Now, I suppose if you wanted to make it your own, you can make it work with the reversals, but the system itself doesn't actually have reversals in it. So this one, the way through. Now, one thing that the book says is that these cards are actually supposed to be intuitive. And the imagery that was chosen for it are supposed to give you intuitive hits. One thing I realized, though, is because this deck was made in the 70s, a lot of the imagery is, from the 70s. And so maybe an intuitive hit that you would have gotten during that time isn't necessarily an intuitive hit that you would get now, is something that I'm starting to realize. But, I think it's fun, and it's definitely cool to have cards from a previous era with previous style artwork and previous style energy, because it definitely feels like a card from the 70s. So the Holocaust, you know, these are people being burnt down. What you see that's being blown out are eyes. And you see the fire and that chimney, which represents, you know, the chimney that people were actually unfortunately burned in the Holocaust. And that card actually represents the Tower in modern day tarot. So I'm loving the imagery. This one, purification. This one is, I believe, akin to the card of temperance in modern day tarot. And again, I've been using this a lot. This deck is more so for spiritual work. The decks like the Rider-Waite is a lot more practical, so everyday type of stuff. Rider-Waite deals with your emotions, it deals with your intellect, and it also deals with your material, physical realm and things and problems that are happening on the physical plane. Things that you are experiencing every single day. This deck is more spiritual, how to transcend the suffering of the earthly plane, how to transcend your ego and your flesh, how to rise above and get in touch with your higher consciousness and higher self. And this deck will help you do this. This deck is good for doing shadow work and spiritual development. And if you're working with people or clients, or maybe you're giving readings for friends, this deck is definitely great for helping all of those people reach sort of like their highest potential spiritually and mentally as well. Ganesh. I love him. I have him everywhere. He's great. Lord of Obstacles. Also Lord of New Beginnings. Serpent Power. Funny enough, this actually reminds me of Taylor Swift's new song, Look What You Made Me Do. Just because of the imagery, I think that's funny. I actually not 100% sure what this card means. I'm going to have to look it up. You know what? Why don't I just look it up now since I'm thinking about it? Because I'm actually very curious to see if it actually relates to Taylor Swift's Look What You Made Me Do in a very funny, haha, cosmic, you know, weird synchronicity thing that the universe loves to do. Okay. So the card means an awakening of latent powers, a sudden burst of high energy, and the ability to use it to manifest evolutionary changes in the realm of the world. Bear in mind the importance of the proper use of such energy. If this card falls in the base, blah, 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 blah. So the awakening of latent powers, understanding your true potential, learning how to manifest that newfound confidence. Boom. Beautiful card. I love it. I mean, I don't really know if it applies to Taylor Swift, but I like the card. The White Lady. Wave of Bliss. This is an interesting card as well because all these cards are very intuitive. With this card, you know, a lot of the times this card may come up if, you know, maybe you're having trouble sort of accepting where you currently are in your current place of life. Maybe there are a lot of things happening around you that you would prefer not to happen around you, but it's doing it anyway. When you get the Wave of Bliss card, it's one of those things where it's like, stop fighting it. Just ride the wave. As soon as you ride the wave, the soonest you get out of the storm. So just ride it out. Don't fight what the universe is trying to do for you, what the universe is trying to teach you. Then we have as above, so below. I love this saying, as above, so below. I say it all the time. Let's see. Phoenix. Now, again, I haven't gotten to this yet in the book, but I'm assuming that this can only mean, you know, rising, coming out from the ashes, the burning bush. Transformation. Guardian. And mean and heavy. That one definitely has some Kali influences. Living Goddess. Death and Transformation. Which, I'm going to go back, reminds me of one of the first ones I showed you, which was all these skeletons in the earth, like this one, the cremation ground the meditation, I actually love the meaning of this card. This one is number 7. Here you can see it on the bottom, which is actually indicative of the Chariot. And this is actually the Chariot card in this deck. And the idea behind it, the reason why it's an cremation ground, is there are old cultures where the sort of spiritualists would sit in what are they called? Graveyards, and that's where they would do their meditation from. And the idea was that if you do your meditation in a graveyard, you have a constant reminder that nothing in life is permanent, that everything is transient, and that everything is transformative. And the idea was that if you did your meditation in the graveyard, it will help you detach from everything material. If it was in your immediate awareness that anything material at the end of the day really didn't matter, and that everything was passing, and that everything was temporary, then it will help you detach yourself from material ideas, concerns, and objects. And so that is why it is depicted as a 7 and is actually considered the Chariot. Because once you hit that realization that everything is transient, you can move forward in life without taking with you grief and the feeling of loss of things. So I thought this card is super deep. Another card that is this Scarlet Woman. Now, I haven't had a chance to look into her yet, but when I did get a reading done with these cards from the palmist that I've mentioned so many times, he actually told me that the Scarlet Woman is someone that is a witch, or a woman that has some type of ability. And the card popped up from me. He doesn't know what it is that I do. I didn't tell him, but he was like, well, you know, you may have some untapped gifts. And I just smirked to myself because I was like, they're definitely not untapped. Okay, Mount Meru. Like a bubble. Slay the ego. Now, this one's definitely Callie. She comes in there, slays everything. She just slays, doesn't she? Cutting through. Blow your mind. Abundance. Now this one is clear as day. That one is the Ace of Pence, the old Ace of Pentacles. The Joker, so the Fool. Fire Sacrifice. Tree Spirit. Pearls Before Swine. Dangerous Pussy. The Past. Now, I read up a lot on that card. I gotta be honest with you, I still don't really understand its purpose. It says a lot about how the card is supposed to represent your past, but what I don't really understand is what it's supposed to represent in your past. I just feel like it didn't make it very clear. Survival. Wheel of Great Time. Isis, the High Priestess. Now, the method for these cards were the collage method. So it actually does state in the book that that is what they intended to do, to take a lot of different imagery and then put it together to make a new meaning. But just like with all sort of old decks, imagery that was relevant in that time, in that era, aren't necessarily relevant anymore. Some of it are, but some of it's not. Like, some of it I can see is definitely outdated, so 70s, and it really isn't anything that we would think of today. But I do really like the system. It's a different deck to have on hand. It's not a deck that people have. It's not a deck I see people use. I don't ever see it pop up anywhere. I don't ever hear it talked about. And I'm someone, as a deck collector, that likes to buy decks that other people do not have. Typically, if I see a deck that a lot of people have, I'm less inclined to buy it. To me, it just feels less special. I like decks that people don't have. I like to feel like exclusive, you know? Can't afford to buy all the red bottoms, but I can get some tarot decks and feel exclusive in the spiritual community. This is as much as I have, unfortunately. In the Rose Garden. Last but not least, Castle in the Clouds. Castle in the Clouds is great as well. Every time I do myself a reading, I always end up with that card, Castle in the Clouds. Castle in the Clouds essentially is your dreamer. It's almost like the Seven of Cups. Or is it the Six of Cups? No, the Seven of Cups. It's like the Seven of Cups. Where you have all these ideas and all these dreams and these hopes and these ambitions, but you don't necessarily always know how to get there, or you don't necessarily always know what the right move is, or maybe you are someone that has all these hopes, dreams, and ambitions, but you don't put in the effort or hard enough effort in order to get there. But in this particular deck shows that you have the hopes and dreams, and then it almost helps you to see what you need to do in order to manifest it. Because this deck is so spiritual, it'll almost teach you what blocks sort of in your energy and in your space that you need to unblock, that you need to uncleanse, that you need to open up in order to let that into your life. I did a block cleansing this morning in my meditation where I had to I did a soul cleansing, a soul healing, where I invited in all the archangels and all my spirit guides and to come in, help me cut the cords towards sort of all of the detrimental thought patterns that lie in my subconscious that keep me blocked from getting those things that I actually want to achieve, whether it's money or jobs and things like that. Help get it away, and then also the reprogramming and the I am worthy of abundance, I am worthy of wealth. Because one thing that oftentimes happens is that we think we're attracting it, we think that we have a positive mind frame, we live positively, but we don't realize that oftentimes if we're not manifesting things that we want to have in our life, that sometimes it's not because of your immediate consciousness, because your immediate consciousness can be like, I'm open, I want to receive, I'm ready, and then your subconscious can be like, no, you don't deserve that, you don't deserve that. But we don't ever realize it because it is the subconscious, it is the consciousness underneath our consciousness, and we don't realize it's doing that. So I did a whole meditation this morning on trying to get rid of those blocks, and I think this deck is perfect for things like that. If you want to know what blocks you have and what you need to get rid of it, because this deck does a really beautiful job at showing what you need to do in order to achieve what it is that you want. This deck is really good to work with. It's great for shadow work, for spiritual work, for healing, for cleansing, for unblocking, whatever it is. This deck is perfect. So I love this deck. The Tantric Dikini Oracle, it's called. And yeah, no, it's an absolute beautiful deck. And if you're into that type of stuff, I suggest you go find it. I mean, I'm sure you can find it on eBay. I haven't looked at Amazon, but I'm sure you can find it on eBay for something decent. So yeah, that's the end of that. If you like what you see, check out my other stuff. Subscribe to my channel. It's Mystic Rain here, and I'll see you guys soon.